forget the clean diagrams. Late war Soviet tank combat wasn't just turret versus turret. It was hatches slammed shut, pistols firing through vision slits, infantry climbing onto the engine deck with satchel charges. Regulations said a tank was protected by its armor and its supporting riflemen. But in cities from Poland to Germany, crews were sometimes isolated for minutes that felt like hours. In those minutes, the most important weapons could be the ones you could throw. These are the 7 forgotten explosives Soviet tank crews used in late WW II combat. Number 7. RGD-33 fragmentation grenade. Outdated on paper, still deadly in a hatch fight. Soviet pre-war instructions treated the RGD-33 as a standard fragmentation grenade, with optional sleeves to increase fragmentation. It was meant to be thrown from cover, with a disciplined delay and a clear throwing arc. In a tank unit, grenades were supposed to stay stowed, accounted for, and used only when dismounted security needed them. Then 1944 happens. In street fighting across Eastern Europe, a crew could be buttoned up, hearing footsteps on the hull, and still need an answer that didn't require traversing the turret. The RGD-33 was bulky, but it was familiar. Crews and attached tank riders sometimes kept them where a hand could find them fast, near the turret basket, in a pocket, under a seat. The sleeve mattered less than speed. If someone got to the engine deck or the rear plate, a quick toss out a hatch or side door could buy a few seconds. It worked when the throw was clean and the grenade cleared the tank. It failed when it didn't. In tight courtyards and narrow streets, fragments could come back through open hatches, and a short throw could make the crew eat their own steel. Number 6. F1 fragmentation grenade. Reliable fuse. Unforgiving walls. The F1, the Limonka, was built around predictability. A standardized fuse, a heavy body, and a fragmentation effect intended for defensive use. Doctrine assumed you threw it from cover, then let the fragmentation do the work while your own people stayed low and back. In theory, it was a tool for infantry screens, not a tank crew's problem. In Berlin in 1945, theory didn't always ride in the turret with you. Tank crews operating with assault groups, riflemen, sappers, and submachine gunners sometimes used F1s to clear cellar windows, stairwells, and rubble pockets that were too close for the main gun's blast. A hatch cracks open, an arm flicks a grenade into a doorway. Then the hatch slams shut again. It's a practical answer when enemy infantry is using the building geometry to get close. The F1 could solve the immediate problem. It could also punish the user. In confined streets, fragments and blast could ricochet off brick and stone, and in documented urban fighting, grenades sometimes caused friendly casualties when thrown into rooms with connecting passages or when supporting infantry pushed forward too quickly. Number 5. RG-42 fragmentation grenade. Mass issue simplicity that didn't always spread the same way twice. The RG-42 was a late war production answer, simpler body, quick to manufacture, and easy to carry in numbers. The expectation was straightforward: standard fuse, consistent handling, and a fragmentation effect suitable for clearing infantry in the open or behind light cover. For tank units, it fit the same assumption as other grenades. Support the combined arms team, don't replace it. Budapest, 1944. Ambush streets. A tank turns into a narrow line of sight and suddenly the threat isn't a panther at 800 meters, it's men on balconies, in doorways, behind wrecks, close enough to hear. The RG-42's compact shape mattered there. It could be grabbed fast, thrown fast, and carried without stealing space from the crew's already cramped world. Crews and nearby infantry could use it to force heads down long enough to reverse, pivot, or let dismounted troops close in. Sometimes it did exactly that: short, sharp suppression that opened a path. Sometimes the simplicity cut both ways. Fragmentation could be uneven depending on how it broke up, and in dense urban clutter a grenade that should clear a corner might instead leave a stubborn firing position intact just long enough for a Panzerfaust shot or a bundle charge to find the tank. Number 4. RPG-43 anti-tank grenade. A desperate armored lifeline that could kill the thrower first. The RPG-43 was issued as a close-range anti-tank grenade with a shaped charge warhead and a stabilizing tail meant to help it strike correctly. Official handling demanded training in nerve, arm it properly, throw from cover, and never underestimate minimum distance. It was designed for infantry, but late war realities sometimes put it into tankers' hands too. Warsaw, late 1944, and other close-quarter fights like it created ugly problems. Tanks got separated from infantry in rubble and smoke. German armor or assault guns could appear at corners inside a few dozen meters. In that moment, a tanker who had bailed out, or a crewman acting as local security, could see the RPG-43 as the only immediate tool with a chance. But chance depended on impact angle and placement. That meant exposing yourself. You had to throw close, and you had to throw accurately. When it landed right side plate, rear, or a vulnerable angle, it could disable a vehicle and stop a breakthrough. When it didn't, the thrower paid. Short throws, bad arming, or a premature detonation could maim the user, and even a successful hit could leave a crew pinned in the open with German small arms already keyed on the sound of the throw. Before we move on, if you were a tanker in a shattered city, would you rather trust a heavy defensive grenade like the F1, or a lighter RG-42 you can throw faster and carry more of? Tell us below, and subscribe because the top 3 are where desperation turns into deliberate tactics. Number 3. RPG-6 Anti-Tank Grenade. Improved design. Same brutal throwing distance. By 1944, the Red Army wanted a shaped charge grenade that behaved more consistently than earlier models. The RPG-6 was issued with a more reliable fuse and a stabilizing system meant to help it hit nose first. Instructions still treated it as an infantry weapon. Arm it correctly, throw from cover, and respect minimum distance so the blast doesn't punish the thrower. In practice, tank combat kept collapsing into ranges where infantry weapon stopped meaning much. Crews working with assault detachments sometimes kept RPG-6 grenades close when there was a real chance of being forced out of the vehicle breakdowns, track damage, or a street blocked by wrecks. If a German assault gun or a half-track with a Panzerfaust team appeared too close for a clean gun solution, a crewman on the ground could try to solve it with his arm. The grenade rewarded correct impact angle, not bravery. When it struck square on thin armor side, rear, or a vulnerable superstructure, it could immobilize a vehicle and buy the crew time to remount or withdraw. When it hit at a bad angle, it might do nothing except give away a man's position, and the throw had to be made close enough that return fire arrived before the smoke cleared. Number 2. Smoke grenades. Not concealment. Communication under fire. Soviet manuals treated smoke as a tool for masking movement and marking boundaries. Grenades and smoke pots were supposed to help infantry and armor coordinate, screen a crossing, obscure an enemy strongpoint, or signal to friendly units without relying on radios that were often unreliable, damaged, or simply drowned out by combat noise. Inside a city fight, smoke became a short-range language. A crew could throw smoke from a hatch to cover a reverse move, to hide a repair attempt on a thrown track, or to break the line of sight for Panzerfaust teams hunting from cellars and upper floors. It also helped detached infantry. A quick bloom at a doorway could mean, "We're pulling back," or "Push now," or simply, "Don't shoot, this is us." It wasn't elegant. It was survival with hand signals made of chemicals. Used well, smoke created seconds enough to pivot out of an ambush or let sappers cross a street to clear a firing point. Used badly, it blinded the tank more than the enemy. Crews lost orientation, backed into rubble, or masked threats long enough for a close-range shot to find the flank. If you were in that turret, would you throw smoke to cover your retreat or save it to mark where the danger actually is? Number 1. TNT satchels and demolition charges. Too heavy to be casual. Too useful to leave behind. Officially, demolition was the sapper's job. TNT blocks, satchel charges, and prepared bundles were issued, accounted for, and used for bridges, obstacles, and deliberate breaches. Tank crews weren't supposed to improvise explosives in the fighting compartment. The space was cramped. The risk of blast, fire, and fumes was obvious. But late war assaults blurred job descriptions. In street fighting, a tank might need a wall opened, a barricade collapsed, or a stubborn room cleared without parking the vehicle in front of an unseen Panzerfaust. Attached engineers carried TNT, and crews learned quickly what a few kilograms could do to brick and timber. Charges were pushed into basement windows, dropped behind cover, or used to blow gaps that a tank could then exploit. Sometimes the tank itself delivered the charge close enough for the handoff, then reversing hard. When a charge was placed right, it solved problems the main gun couldn't: silent geometry, dead angles, rooms you couldn't traverse into. When it went wrong fast. A mishandled fuse, a premature blast, or a shockwave in a confined stairwell could injure the very assault group the tank needed to survive the next block. Look at what these weapons really are. Not last-ditch tricks, but small negotiations with physics and fear. Doctrine tried to keep explosives in neat categories: infantry, engineers, armor. Combat didn't care. Men used what fit in a hand, what worked in a hallway, what bought 10 seconds. If you want World War II history without simplification, patriotic mythology, or documentary cliches, subscribe to Brass and Blitz. We'll keep following the details that armies wrote down and the details soldiers lived.